Hi everyone, this is Callie. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm sharing two stenciled cards using the Whimsy Motif set from Altenew. Today's video is a part of a video hop, so I'm glad you're here and I hope you'll leave a comment below as to which one you like better. So like I said, these two are stenciled cards and there is a coordinating embossing folder. One card uses the embossing folder and the other doesn't. So let me know what you prefer. I do think that both looks are very pretty. They do produce different results. It's very interesting how they look when they are ink blended with the same inks. So I've embossed a panel here. This is an A2 size card panel and I'm putting it into my Altenew stamp wheel to hold in place while I stencil. And I'm going to be using the same color on both cards. I'm using fresh dye inks from Altenew, and I'm using Cosmic Berry, which is the darker color, and Rose Quartz, which is the lighter color that I'm using here. Now for my first card, I'm going to be ink blending with the lighter color first on all three layers of this Whimsy Motif stencil, and then I'll switch and go back and do the dark. Anytime that I've ink blended an image that has a coordinating embossing folder, I always save the embossing folder for last because I prefer the embossed image to be really crisp. And that way, if there's a coordinating die, I don't ruin that embossing by die cutting the image after the fact. But this set does not come with a coordinating die, so I thought I would emboss first, then ink blend. I've seen it done this way before and I thought that the look was so cool because the curvatures and indentations and embossing from the embossing folder really grabs the ink in certain areas where it's raised. So that's where I think that these two cards being ink blended with the same inks are providing different results because the embossed image really grabs that ink where the raised areas are. And that completely makes sense that an embossed image would look more 3D, right? But I am just referring to the ink alone. So once I'm done ink blending all of the flowers, I tried to ink blend the three different flowers a little bit differently. The spacing and openings of each of the petals are a little bit different. So I concentrated the darker ink in certain areas more depending on the flower. I should also mention that there are new inks with this release, and that's what I'm using on these cards. This first card uses greens from this release, but the second card does not. So here I am ink blending the second card without the embossing. Again, I'm using the same pink colors. I'm using Rose Quartz and then Cosmic Berry for the darker shading. And then for the greens, I decided to switch this one up a little bit more and use a more muted pine eucalyptus color for the greenery. When I was ink blending this card, originally my intent was to compare the two cards embossing before and then embossing after ink blending. However, once I got to the third layer, or the fourth layer, I'm sorry, with the foliage, I realized that there was no way I was going to be able to ink blend this and then line it up properly in the embossing folder because I'm not sure if I've got the stencil lined up correctly in the right place. And if it's off just a little bit, the embossing wouldn't look right. So I left it as is and did not emboss this panel. And that's why my cards turned out the way they did. And my original idea for comparing the two embossed images before and after ink blending wasn't going to work. So here we have the two images side by side, and as you can see, the ink on the embossed image really grabs better. I do get a smoother blend without an embossed image first, but they are both extremely pretty. So now we're going to start putting the cards together. I'm going to work on one card at a time. This is the embossed panel and there are embossed stems. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a coordinating marker from my Copic collection. This is BG15 and I'm just tracing over the white veins or stems that are coming out of the embossed image. For the flatter image of the two without the embossing folder, I'm going to fussy cut around all the leaves because I really wanted to add more dimension to that particular card since there isn't a lot of dimension there except for where the ink shading is. Before I put these two card panels together, I used some metallic inks from Altenew to splatter them with gold ink, and then I'm also adding the gold to the stamen on each of those flowers. For this first card, using the embossed Whimsy Motif, I'm going to use the picture frame die to go ahead and frame my floral bouquet. Now I didn't realize when I set this down that this frame does not perfectly mat the A2 size card. So I just cut off a 1/4 inch off the top and that evens up all of my matting around the edges of the frame, and I also did the same to the card base before adhering it. That card is done for now. We're going to do the sentiments at the very end. For my second card, I'm using the Honeycomb Daisies cover die, and this die is so gorgeous. There's so much detail to it, and it's going to add lots of dimension and texture to my card. I do cut up this bouquet, and I cut it into 3 parts so that I can use all 3 parts and not waste any of it. I'm going to add this white background panel to a white card base. I really want it to be white on white. I really wanted the pops of color to be strictly from the ink blended images from the Whimsy Motif stencils. And then I have all of these white foliage that I die cut from the picture frame die that I used in my first card. This die set is so great because there are frames and foliage, and so it's a good all-around die set to have. I'm going to take those white leaves and just tuck them underneath the bouquet in all the different spots. So we've got lots and lots of texture for that second card to make up for it not being embossed. My sentiments here are from the Sentiment Strips 2 stamp set. I just stamped and embossed 2 of them off camera over some black cardstock and embossed them with white before adhering them to my card. So there you have 2 completed cards using the Whimsy Motif set. Be sure to leave a comment below and let me know which one you like better. If you're new to my channel, thank you for coming, and I hope you'll subscribe and hit the like button. Everything I used will be linked below and will be on my blog as well if you're interested in the details. Thank you so much for stopping by and have a wonderful day. Bye everyone!